Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the vortex, but don't get your eye stalks in a tizzy. We've arrived at episode 262. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Sean's
Too far away from my mic.
It occurred to Sean that his mic was clear across the table.
It's there. I'll just project really loudly tonight.
Your mic picks up really well. You've got one of the better mics.
Did you guys have a good week and a good New Year?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. We had work, but...
For working, it wasn't bad.
No, the nice thing is New Year's Eve falls at midnight, or rather the big party falls at midnight. We're usually home by then, so it makes going out and doing any of those fun things early in the evening leading up to midnight kind of a damper, but we're getting old. Our niece stayed overnight with us because her mom went to the Ramada Inn party, and so the kids, we all stayed up and said Happy New Year and popped some of the little champagne popper.
Was this Mason's
things.
first year making it to midnight?
No, he made it last
last
year
year?
as well,
Okay.
I think.
I couldn't
Maybe
remember.
even the year before that. But we used to do the countdown like at 10.
Yeah.
You go to bed, and then we do our real countdown. So they stayed up. We did, they played Pie Face, which I don't know if you know what that is. It's this game. It's a hand, a mechanized hand. You put whipped cream on it. You stick your face through this little face cutout, and then you roll the dice and you turn a little knob as many times on the dice that you get, or you spin a spinner, I guess. And there's one of those notches on it that slings the hand up into your face if you happen to get to it. So they played that and had a lot of fun. Just had a lot of snacks. I got a new Apple TV, so we downloaded a karaoke app for it. And it had a lot of free songs on it. I was shocked. And the cool thing is you can, because we have iPhones, you can take and you can download the app to your iPhone and use your phone as a microphone. And
that's
you can hear yourself through the TV singing to the karaoke. So you don't have to go out and buy a brand new karaoke system anymore. You just Apple TV and free apps.
I'm sure the karaoke makers love that.
Then Count It Down with Chicago, because that's who NBC played. I was so proud of NBC that they did not tape delay the New York one that would have already happened an hour ago. They went to a Chicago feed for that hour between 11 and midnight, and so we got to count down with somebody in our time zone, which, again, was very cool. I hope they continue to do that.
Huzzah!
And then we pulled the sofa sleeper out. I remembered I have it this time, Sean. And blew up the air mattress, and the girl slept on the sofa sleeper, and Mason slept on an air mattress in the living room. I think they stayed up for like another hour watching TV and giggling and talking. Holly and I went to bed. We were exhausted by about 1 o'clock. We were just like, okay, that's it. We're going to bed. So that was our New Year's Eve. It was fun.
That's good. Sean was gracious to host our group of friends' Christmas party. So, unfortunately, Sarah wasn't feeling good. So after I got off work, I came over here for a little while and then went home to be with her. That's a good thing I got home when I did, because about midnight when the fireworks were going off, Cody was right on my lap, not moving an inch, terrified because of the fireworks. But he was protecting me.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what he thinks.
It was nice of him to do that.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. It was pretty good, though. Enjoyable.
Kind of the same thing. I worked New Year's Eve and then came home, and there was a house full of people. I was like, oh, all right, everybody's here. Yay. Slowly got into the spirit. It was a long day. And then kicked all of you guys out, and I went to bed. It was like, okay. And then I worked 7 days straight. Ooh. I was in the middle of that. I worked every day since Christmas. But I did it to secure this weekend off.
Oh,
which was kind of nice to have 2 in a row and at neither job, and
we actually went in Saturday night thinking you might be there.
Sorry, wasn't there.
That's okay.
Normally would have been. But
I went in Saturday night too, thinking you'd be there.
You did not. Such a liar. You never come see me.
I went in last Saturday or Sunday to see you.
You did see me last Sunday.
I had other missions there, but
I've still got your bank But, by the way.
Oh, you do? Hey, I was going to get that for Mason for Christmas, and I forgot all about it.
I kind of noticed.
Yeah.
But
Hold on to it. He's got a birthday coming up, and I'll come.
I didn't want to talk about it on the podcast because he might be listening.
Yeah. No, my kids do not listen to this podcast.
But, no, so then Mel asked me, she says, what do you want to do Saturday? I was like, nothing. I want a day of, I want to sit, I want to play video games and watch movies, and I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I want to do absolutely nothing. So we did. We did absolutely nothing on Friday. It was glorious. And she kept kind of looking at me like, are you sure you're okay with this? I was like, yep. I might get ambitious later and start to put Christmas away. Nope. Not going to happen. I was just burned out. Just wanted a day of nothing. So we did nothing. We watched a couple of Tarantino flicks and played some more Lego Dimensions. But we did absolutely nothing other than that yesterday. And then today we got up and went to Kansas City and saw Hateful Eight in 70mm. And I was so happy. It was well done, and it's a lot of fun. So, thumbs up.
Other than Dimensions, I finished my Doctor Who Lego set.
It's so pretty.
It is pretty. I'm really impressed by it. And then just spent some time with my sister since she's back in town for Christmas. She takes off tomorrow. So, and then the other thing we watched was the Sherlock New Year's special.
I still haven't watched that.
Bride. Yeah. Did you watch anything?
No, we spent all day at the car dealership on Saturday, so...
And congratulations.
Thank you very much. Got a 2014 Nissan Altima. Anything else? All right, let's move on.
Well, if you are going through Doctor Who withdrawal...
I am.
BBC America has the answer.
What is it?
They are going to rebroadcast Series 9.
Oh.
And they're going to do kind of pop-up video style with
so
commentary.
like infotext coming up?
Yeah, infotext with commentary from Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Facebook.
Ooh, that's fun.
And behind-the-scenes stuff like concept arts and all sorts of other different stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's going to start January 30th. I don't have a time, so check your local listings. I think they're doing 2 episodes a night. So
that would make sense. Do them as...
Since most of them are two-parters anyways.
Two-parters together,
yeah. That's it.
That's it for news?
That's it for news.
Did we want to talk about Moffat leaving again?
Was there more reference to that?
Peter Capaldi came out this week in an article, too, about thinking that next year was his last year. I didn't read it because I'm not even going to bother. When
I think I read
when
the
it's
article.
Officially announced that he's leaving, then I'll discuss it. But
the only thing I thought was
I read the article, and the comments sounded like he said, like, they asked him, is next year going to be your last year? And so he answered in an appropriate manner of, well, I got to leave at some time.
I thought it was, the only thing I can say about it is I thought it was interesting that after spending the entire lead up through this season and into Christmas with Capaldi going, why do they keep asking me to leave? You know, and then making the comment, I would do Doctor Who all year. I would make more episodes if they'd let me. I would do this. I don't have any plans to go anywhere. Blah, 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 blah. To then turn around and go, well, I have to leave sometime. And it just all of a sudden was like, whoa.
Well, and he also couched that with taking since he took the job, he's been thinking about his regeneration. I mean, it's as you take the job as the Doctor, you know it's a limited run. That you won't be in the role forever, or that the show will end while you're in the role.
Speak for yourself. I plan to live
I
forever.
think what happened was he was talking about, I'll do Doctor Who forever. I love it. It's great. More episodes, blah, blah, blah. And his agent got a hold of him and said, if you keep saying that, they're not going to negotiate your contract higher. And so now he's got to turn around and say, well, there's a chance I'm leaving. I got to leave sometime. So the BBC go, oh, well, we better offer him more money so he'll stick around. That's what that was.
I would be the worst ever.
Negotiator.
Yeah. You coming back next year? Yep. Go anywhere? Nope.
I'll be here.
Can I work for free? Okay.
your agent would be going, 8% of 0 is 0. Oh no.
We want to talk about the Omni rumors some more?
No. Let's move on. No feedback this
No
week.
feedback this
but,
week.
But we do want to remind you that there are various avenues you can contact us aside from feedback, and you can find us on various forms of social media, which are...
We are on Facebook, Traveling the Vortex, Twitter @Travel Vortex. We are on Instagram. We are on Google+. We are on Periscope. We have the the book club on Goodreads, which the January book has been announced officially is The Legend of Ashilda. So grab your copies and start reading now that it's January.
Because we will be reviewing that on the show.
Yeah.
So, just as a reminder that we can talk about now is that this is the January book. We'll be reviewing it in February. So now you will actually,
You've been warned.
We're going to be talking about them, so you better read them.
Point being, though, there is other ways to contact us besides emails. So if you want to give us a shout out on any of those forms of social media, go ahead, and maybe we'll read it on the show as well.
Yeah.
And, of course, you can always contact us at feedback@travelingthevortex.com.
Or on the contact feedback tab on the Facebook page. Or on the Facebook page. On the website.
Yeah.
You got it.
All right, let's move on to...
Our reviews.
What were we doing first? I forgot.
Do you have a synopsis of the comics?
Let me pull up the first issue and see if there is.
Oh, yeah.
Pull up the first issue, computer.
Hello,
I
computer.
can't do that, Keith.
Is GLaDOS in charge? What's good?
Oh, did I sound more like GLaDOS than Dave? Or than Hal?
No, I just GLaDOS. I
little
thought
bit.
GLaDOS would be a little more stubborn.
I will say there was one panel of the comic that I liked
I don't have
so
a
much
synopsis. I just have a previous.
that it became my desktop on my phone and my iPad.
Oh.
It went away.
It went away.
Ah.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't have the synopsis.
All right, yeah. Synopsis.
I don't think we normally do with the comics.
The eighth Doctor, the ninth Doctor, Jack and Rose traveling in the TARDIS. I can't talk tonight. Take over.
Is it a tortoise because he taught it you?
I think I kind of showed my hand a few weeks ago when we were talking about this, and I asked you guys if you'd read it yet. I thoroughly enjoyed this. In fact, I read through this a second time just this week in order to refresh myself on it. Found I didn't really need to because I remembered it a lot better than I did. The first thing I'm going to point out, because we tend to do this, and I don't think it's always that fair to do, but I want to point out that the artwork in this is
Through all 5 issues
and
are
consistent.
phenomenal.
Yes.
Blair Shed did a phenomenal
Yeah,
job.
1 through 5 was apparently the same same artist then, right? Through
I
all of
believe
them.
so,
yeah. And just it's sharp, it's clean, it looks like who they're portraying.
He really
It's
captures the anguish in
Yes.
the Ninth Doctor's face.
yes. The action really comes across in the illustrations. It's quite enjoyable, and that was the first thing that really appealed to me in this comic was in this miniseries was just how terrific that was. Sean looks like he's reading through it again.
No, I was just mirroring what you were.
I quite enjoyed this story too.
Oh.
I think that I like that what I would like the best about it is it bounces around a lot, but it keeps with a very linear theme, a very linear story. And I really like how we start off in the middle of this skirmish, and we don't really know what's going on. We end up losing Rose, and she ends up on another planet at this black market, basically, for banned weapons. And she's helping some squid-looking guy there, and Glom, the Glom. And Jack and the Doctor end up having to rescue her, and there's the confrontation and conflict on the planet. And then I like that then we bounce to the one faction, which is the Anon. Is that what it is?
The Anon.
And
Unon?
Unon?
Unon? U-N-O-N?
At first I thought it was Union.
I
what I
kept
thought it
reading
was, too.
Union in my head at
Okay,
first,
good.
too. I did the same thing. The Anon. And I like that we kind of get their story and the reason why they are who they are and what they're doing. They've kind of become the time
Which
police,
is great.
essentially,
They think they're trying
because of
essentially
the
becoming
absence.
the new Time Lords.
Because of the absence. So, the Time Lords. And so we get this wonderful, almost like, you read the story and you're kind of think, oh yeah, you're sort of justified in what you're doing here because it really seems right. It really seems to be the right thing to be doing. Which is weird because in the first story, if we can backtrack a little bit, the other faction, which is the you guys are there. What's the name of the group that's on the ship when they first get there?
The Let.
Yes.
Yeah, the Let.
So the Let, you kind of sort of think maybe the Let are the ones that, even though they're the ones that are trying to capture our heroes, you sort of feel
they're
like
the one
when
that
the Anon show
under
up,
attack.
yeah, they become so you sort of side with the Let. Later, you kind of sort of think, okay, maybe the Anon is right in the right here, and so because you get kind of their story and their background and their history and what's going on. And then suddenly we're thrown into the thrones of the Let because the Doctor decides to kind of indirectly help the Anon. And then we find out that the Let have their own situation that you kind of sympathize with as well.
Actually, I wound up sympathizing more with.
And ultimately, you do.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea that it kind of pulls you back and forth in this tug of war of whose side is really right here. And I think ultimately at the end, the balance is tipped towards the Let, but you even, to a point, kind of feel like, and I think that they all kind of come to this conclusion that there really needs to be no one faction that is the Time Police, that everybody has to kind of use.
There should not be a new Time Police.
Yeah, everybody is victims here, and everybody kind of has to live in unity. And I really like that concept. And I think that's why the story is so enjoyable, because you're thrown into the conflict, and then you have the harrowing experience of, saving Rose, and then in that second story he's calling upon everybody to come. He's got the ultimate weapon that he's got for sale. It's the brain of a Time Lord, and you're like, what are you doing? What's going, only to find out that he's really just trying to draw out the strongest opponent. And then we get the Anons, kind of their story and their background, and then we get the Let's story and background. So I like how the
fact that right before he's calling them down, in the arms market is a lot of Gallifreyan
weaponry. Yeah.
Which the whole thing is so raw for the Doctor. That's one of the greatest assets to the story, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Even more so than the TV series did. It really captures and elevates the agony that he is going through in the wake of what he thought he did in the Time War.
I also like the fact that the Doctor spends a lot of this comic on his back foot.
Yes.
Not only because of the situation and because of the fact that it is Gallifreyan technology or because of this, but it's...
So much so because he doesn't know what's going on.
He doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And even the little things, like when they wind up at the bazaar, and he's just flipping out over the fact that this place shouldn't exist because it's on the cusp of a supernova, and Jack's like, oh yeah, no big deal.
Jack's been there.
I like the fact that Jack kind of gets to play tour guide through most of it. And show him around and do things. I thought that was
it's kind of nice to have that time agency Jack too, instead of the Torchwood Jack.
Yes, absolutely. This is the Jack that I love. This is the Jack that I fell in love with when he's first introduced. And the beauty of this is it's set in that time very soon after
it's directly
the rescue. Yeah. And so, very soon. Other things could have happened.
Yeah, it's true.
But very soon after they rescued Jack at the end of Unearthly Child and the Doctor Dances, and so. It's really kind of it almost gives you a chance to kind of explore that first introductory character a lot more, because he really kind of grows and changes over the course of those last few episodes, because by the time we get to Boomtown, he really has kind of become a member of the team.
Well, yeah, the three of them have gelled so much.
And so this
and
really
then we're
goes
on to the finale where, what happens there.
This really goes above and beyond being able to kind of smooth in that transition between, picking him up and then losing him by the end of the series.
I also really like the hints that they gave, or the retroactive flashbacks.
Well, the one gal kind of sees the future and sees what's in store for him, and without letting on too much what he can expect.
But for us, seeing the panels, and even down to Children of Earth, was great.
Exactly. So, I just of the Titan stuff they've done, this is so far my favorite.
Oh, absolutely. And it has the heavy, but then throughout it, the entire time is the Ninth Doctor's snark.
It is. It's his snark. Well, and it's Captain Jack's snark just as well in a different vein. I mean, it's so they've nailed these characters.
So
and
much wit.
Even Rose, I think, feels very much like Rose from the first series. It just They've nailed these characters and came down on the right foot. And that's why I was so excited when we announced it. Well, we didn't announce it, but when Titan announced it, when we mentioned that Titan announced that they were going to continue and do an actually full-out comic series with the Ninth Doctor, I got so excited with that because of just the foundation they laid here, and I hope they can maintain that momentum going on in the series.
If they keep the same writer and the same artist, I think it'll be a phenomenal series.
Well, I agree, but I also don't think you want to stretch those resources too thin. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing some other artists. I think when we did read the announcement that's who was coming on board, at least in the beginning. I just hope they don't stretch them too thin so that they don't feel like they either have to be filler or it gets too dry, because I mean that's a possibility.
I'm hoping they just have their great stories and that they pitched and they said, "Oh, it's sold so well enough. Let's keep going."
I think that, and I think based on the track record of this miniseries, is why they decided to push on and probably pay whatever Chris needed to allow his imagery.
And I think we've said it multiple times, and so many other fans and podcasts have said how great he was as the Doctor, and how it is such a tragedy that there's only the one season with him, and this really does feel like it's more.
I agree,
and it helps shoe it in, and it just does such a good job.
And there's a good number of new series novels out there that have that I think have done. We've read Only Human, which I think have kind of done a decent job of continuing that Doctor and giving us a little more of him.
But they kind of stopped those once Tennant came around, too.
Exactly. And so this gives us a little more breadth as far as the Ninth Doctor goes, and I really appreciate that.
Well, I think that more than anything, unlike, I'm going to pick on the book for just a moment, unlike the Only Human, this, as you guys said, feels like Boomtown
incorporates all three characters.
Team TARDIS.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I appreciate Boomtown so much, is because this is the Team TARDIS that I would have loved to have had for a whole season or more, versus the episode and a half that we really get them before they're gone. And so the fact that we've got that dynamic, we've got those characters, and even when they're splitting them up, which we got a lot of Jack and the Doctor together, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That Rose was off doing her thing.
And then we got Jack and Rose off doing their thing.
And then even when he's got to, you two were never together. Was it always this difficult? And he's talking to himself about it. It's great. But I think that goes a long way to smoothing over, the why we liked it so much. It's because it's not just that you're hitting the right era. It's not just that you're hitting the right tempo. It's that you're hitting the right combination of both of them for this particular era. Because this is where Nine got fun. Not that he wasn't good before.
No.
But this is where I felt
when the
Doctor dances, that's like a pinnacle moment in the series. And you're right. That's when this Doctor gets fun. Unfortunately, it's so short-lived because we're so far into the series.
I've said before, I almost feel like this is where Chris kind of felt like he was having fun in the role versus just showing up and doing a job.
Well, and retroactively also,
maybe not, but
it also is kind of when some of the shackles of the Time War have come off of him more.
A little bit
is at that point too, because he's still so very heavy and very dark and very broody about the Time War, and that's when he has that great victory. Is when he can really start to become the Doctor again, fully fledged.
Yeah.
At least in my mind, that's how I put it.
No, and it makes that moment it was a big impactful moment in the Doctor dances when Everybody Lives. That was the big moment for him. And I don't think, even watching it, I don't think that I ever really.
I think if you go back and rewatch it now, knowing what we know about the Time War and what went on during it, that moment will have a much bigger impact.
Yeah, I agree now. It was a big moment for him before, but now that we've seen some elements of the Time War, we know what was going on and a little bit of the backstory to get that Everybody Lives coming after it is like, oh wow, this is a big deal. So it explains a lot. But honestly, was just a little disappointed with you guys are hugely praising it. I kind of been letting you, just hoping that it would wash over me, and I would maybe think, yeah, you're right. I enjoyed the artwork. I think it's very good comic artwork, which I like. I don't think the likenesses were quite. There were a couple of panels. I was like, yeah, that's great. That's who that is. And then there was a lot of, I don't know, cheating. It almost felt like where it's like, well, you've got kind of the features of the person there, but it's not really what Jack looks like or what. It's a nitpicky thing.
Are you talking like the wider shots?
Well, some of the angles I think were just a little. You know, when you're given a panel and you can actually do it, that's great. When you're,
I think maybe I'm a little more forgiving because when, especially an artist is doing so many panels,
yeah. And there's a lot of work going on here.
You have to forgive them for some panels, but I thought
I still think it's some of the best art we've had so far.
I disagree. I don't think I saw a moment where I went, well, that doesn't quite look like Jack. I mean, it's right down to the expressions that they gave that I maybe the covers maybe less so, but I'm not sure that the covers were necessarily our same artist.
No,
they usually are. But no, I thought never was there once where I looked at somebody and said, well, that doesn't look like them, or even quite. That doesn't even quite look like them.
Maybe I'm just being a Glenn fuddy-duddy then, because I felt. When we get to the, excuse me, bless you, the kind of first real good look we get at the, what are these called?
Anon.
The Anon, and they're battle-hardened centaurs, and I was kind of like, ah. And Glom. I was like, oh, it's a squid. I was having Glenn moments with the whole thing. It's like, why they all got to be anthropomorphized, guys? It's a comic book. Do something different.
The era.
Yeah, but I expect that from the era. So.
I was kind of surprised there weren't more nods and references in the Bazaar, other than the Slitheen.
And Bad Wolf.
Yeah, and Bad Wolf.
Bad Wolf weapons.
I like that they have carried that through.
Yeah, that was a really nice touch. But I was kind of surprised it wasn't like jam packed. It was just only a couple. But then later we get the Cybermen and the Santara, and then
yes, I knew you'd like the Cybermen.
Yeah.
Even in silhouette doing absolutely nothing. Keith was all excited over the Cybermen.
I also like the idea of a bazaar or a black market of weapons that kind of
bargains.
Well, they come from timelines that were pretty much non-existent anymore. What a great concept! Yes. What a great
almost
idea!
Like that Axis of Infinity story.
Yeah, exactly. And so when it comes down to it, the concept of that's really cool because you're like it's like weapons out of time. It's like out of timelines that no longer exist. Now, when you find out that pretty much everything that's on the Glom's table is Gallifreyan, it's almost kind of hits you with, oh, well, no wonder these are all out of time because that's a timeline that's been essentially erased from this perspective as well. So it was one of those, oh, of course, why didn't I see this coming kind of things, you know?
And the Doctor goes all Jesus punching out the money changers in the temple. Flipping things over and causing a ruckus.
Nope, I'm thoroughly pleased, and I think that if they can keep this momentum and pace up with the series that they're going to now turn around and do as well, I think we've got a lot of good stuff coming. I look forward to more.
And what's also great about the story is the overall story between the Elect and the Anon. It's a story that you really can only do with the Ninth Doctor. Where somebody trying to become the new Time Lords, and then a species they're trying to obliterate a century.
It makes a lot more sense as a Ninth Doctor story, especially in the wake of the 10th Doctor kind of coming afoul of the Shadow Proclamation that they've kind of stepped in with the Judoon and tried to do some of the police work and things of that nature.
Which I never got the impression that they were time related, though.
Not necessarily, but I
think the thing about the Shadow Proclamation is they're policing the physical realm. They're policing space.
Yeah,
Time is left alone for the most part. And with the Shadow Proclamation, you get the impression that it's an organization that was created based on a democracy. That all of these different systems and planets probably got together and voted, because there's articles and there's, I don't want to say a constitution, but there's at least a foundation or a guidelines around it, because he's always quoting pieces of the Shadow Proclamation. And you almost get the impression that maybe even the Time Lords were part of this policing system. Now, they're not policing time as the Anon and the Let are trying to do in this sense.
Well, the Let weren't even trying to police time.
But right. Well, they just became victims of that. But so it is not just the idea of somebody trying to take over that authority. It's with the Shadow Proclamation. It seems like more of a democracy. Whereas the Anon, it almost goes to the point of kind of a dictatorship coup is what it looks like. And so I kind of like that there's a stark difference between that as well. That maybe if the Anon had fulfilled their passion to replace the Time Lords, that they may have either in turn taken the Shadow Proclamation under their own fold, and then used those as their SS. So that could have easily come about and kind of dissolved that sort of joint effort that the Shadow Proclamation seems to think. Now don't get me wrong. Things that they have alluded to in the series now makes me think that the Shadow Proclamation probably has its own ambitions aside from an agenda that has been kind of maybe formulating into a totalitarian society as well, that maybe wasn't the intent of the initial establishment, because we kind of get the impression that they're a little big for their britches. So,
did anybody get the in the fifth comic the panel where they give us the backstory, where the Anon show up and kind of deliver their ultimatum that your scientists are developing time travel? You must cease your experiments immediately, surrender all temporal material to the Anon, and if we refuse, then your path will be changed for you. Did anybody else get a Two Doctors vibe?
Yeah.
That this is, and that maybe that's why the Doctors really kind of hardcore freaked out at that moment, because he's like, I've been on that end of that conversation.
I hadn't thought of that, but you make a very solid point. Yeah.
That this is really, behold the tyranny of the Time Lords. That it's just like, we want all the toys, we don't want anybody else to have them,
right.
and you need to knock it off or else. Of course, I don't know that the Time Lords would have hit that base with a
planet crusher
entropy engine. But
we sort of get
another great name of a leftover Time War weapon.
Yeah,
we sort of get that feel that the Time Lords are kind of going that direction anyway, and they need a lot of the Big Finish audios as well. So, especially some of the Eighth Doctor ones we've already listened to. That inner struggle between the High Council and the CIA. Anything else?
I don't think so. I look forward to more.
Let's move on to the Joggernauts.
Well, I gotta switch apps.
Apparently, due to contractual obligations with the name being copyrighted, we're not allowed to call them Mechanoids.
When he's got the computer screen like that, he looks like he's conducting. Because he's got the touch screen.
He does. He throws things around.
For my normal computer, it would work much quicker.
I'm going to get you some fingerless gloves, and you can do Tom Cruise in Minority Report.
Yeah. Need some of those tech tip gloves.
The Juggernauts.
That's far too many apps.
I don't. It just wasn't loading the swipe screens as it was supposed to, so I could switch apps.
I got you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. In a small mining colony on the dark and distant planet of Leith? Events are occurring, the results of which could dramatically affect things on a universal scale. For within the dingy corridors of the artificial biosphere, the lone survivor of a devastating crash has expertly wormed his way into the lives of the colony's personnel. A scientist known as Davros. Separated from one another across space and time, the Doctor and Mel find themselves in a very different predicaments. Mel has been employed on Lathe, while the Doctor has been imprisoned aboard an alien spacecraft. Both situations are inexorably linked. However, and at the apex of the two sits Davros and the terrifying possibility of a new threat, even more powerful than the Daleks. Rescuing Mel and stopping Davros should be the Doctor's primary goals. But could it be this time Mel does not wish to be rescued? And might Davros actually be working on something for the benefit of the civilized galaxies?
I enjoyed this. It was a good story.
No dun 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 at all?
Dun dun dun. It was, I
just like to throw it out there every now and then and not be the one to do it.
It's
because,
hard to it's hard to rate things with the enthusiasm of a dun dun dun, but it was a good story. I think it was more of a comfortable story to me. It was more, well, we just came off of a very intense season 9
it felt
with some really, really solid storytelling, with some original ideas, with some difference. It was almost kind of nice to fit back into those comfortable shoes again and get back into a big finish that was kind of from an era that was mimicking the classic series. And I think this mimics a lot of those kind of classic series feel of stories. And so there's no huge revelations in this. I mean, there's the minor surprises that you get, but there was no huge revelations in this.
Really, it's more of a great story for Mel.
Yeah. The surprises that I got were the fact that apparently I didn't look at the cover for this album. Because it was it was Davros that shows up, and I was like you guys said a little off of mic, so I'm going to kind of steal your thunder here. As soon as he said, Keith said he sounded like Davros to him without the.
I thought it sounded like Terry Malloy.
I sort of thought the same thing. And then when the wheelchair is mentioned, I thought, well, it must be Davros. He's in a wheelchair, and he's got some sort of perception filter on the crew here. And so it was one of those things that they were little surprises when the mechanoids show up. That was a bit of a surprise as well. In fact, as soon as I heard the voice, I went, oh, mechanoids. There were these minor surprises, but there was nothing mind-blowing about this story. This was and I think this story is best suited for the Sixth Doctor.
Oh yeah.
In fact, after hindsight now, listening to this all the way through, I don't think I could imagine. I could imagine other Doctors in this story, but no other Doctor would have had the right panache for that this story has for the Sixth Doctor.
Yeah. And
doing it with Mel, I find I quite enjoy the Sixth Doctor and Mel now, because we didn't get much Sixth Doctor and Mel. We got Terror the Vervoids, right, is the only Sixth Doctor and Mel story that we get, because we get that one chunk. Well, she's in she's in that last story as well, but it's more of a Doctor Master Ultimate Foe. That's it. We kind of get some there, but really, as far as a standalone story, Terror of the Vervoids is really the only Sixth Doctor story that we get with Mel. And so I find the more I hear, and we've had some big finish with the Sixth Doctor Mel, but the more I hear, well, the only one I can think of right off the top of my head is the One Doctor.
Yeah, that seems familiar.
It's the one with the guy that's pretending to be the Doctor and his companion, and that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. We may have done others, but anyway, this
I don't
story.
think we've done many, but
maybe that's why I enjoy this, because it's so fresh and new to me in that sense that we don't have a lot of Sixth Doctor and Mel, and so to hear them play off each other, and not that same dynamic that he and Perry had. It's very much a two good friends, enjoying an adventure together, and so that's what this feels like. And I think that, again, old shoe for me, but it paces out really well, and it feels like a classic episode.
And it was a really great episode for Mel. I mean, we start with her in the society, waiting for the Doctor, kind of getting friends and becoming friends with Professor Vaso, who then turn around and become Davros. And then the end, when she makes him beg for mercy, is incredibly powerful and speaks volumes and gives her so much more depth. It's really incredible in that aspect of it. As far as Davros goes, it felt like the audio story Davros to some extent, because it's Davros in a lab creating something that is going to replace the Daleks, or, et cetera, et cetera. So that part of it was kind of status quo and familiar. It was all the other stuff, and, the Doctor quasi working for the Daleks, but not really, and them being separated, doing their two different things for the longest time, and then coming together, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the ride.
You have the strike against you of not knowing a lot about the mechanoids yet.
Yeah.
I like the idea, though, stepping ahead just a little bit here, I like the idea of Davros utilizing the mechanoids against the Daleks, because it's a classic battle that we've had before. They are adversaries. And finding the one thing that you might arguably be more powerful than the Daleks is the mechanoids. And so I like the reveal that Davros is experimenting with this new technology, and he's getting investors to come in so that he can continue this production of these particular machines. And you kind of get the impression that the idea is to develop these, sell them to the investors, and then the investors have this product, and Davros has his money, or Professor Vaster has this money. But
you mean Dr. Vaso?
But Dr. Vaso. But ultimately
they called him Professor, didn't they?
Yeah, they called him Professor, but he is a doctor.
Yeah, but
because Dr. Vaso.
Davros.
So
but obviously he's using the investors. He's using the investors to get the money so that he can continue it for his own means, because he wants to teach the Daleks lessons, which goes back to when we were talking about Davros and the Daleks and the struggle that they've had with and against each other for all these years. And I like the idea of pitting an even something that's already an adversary, but then changing the name. These are the Juggernauts. This isn't Mechanoids.
Yeah.
What's this Mechanoids you talk about? These are my Juggernauts. And it was like just such a clever little spin on that. I thought that was kind of cool. Not to mention that the Mechanoids aren't just they have different variations of groups. They have ones that are like security or warriors or battle robots, but we also have the ones that we find out later working on the assembly line that don't attack Mel and the Doctor, because their sole purpose is making sure that the maintenance and running of the machines that are creating more. So I thought that was cool. And then the little added bonus of the idea of using the mechanoid, having the mechanoids and utilizing the humans that he's been harvesting from this particular mining colony to be the essence and element in very Dalek type fashion. Because we've had Davros using humans even as an experiment to, or not an experiment, but to further a Dalek race or to create a new Dalek race. And this is one step away, just sidestep from that, of using humans in order to further this mechanoid army. So I really like that. There's a lot of, I don't want to say this is a fun story, but there's a lot of fun, enjoyable elements.
There's a lot of
story.
really good ideas in it.
Yeah, they're simple ideas, and they're ones that are in line with things that we've seen in the past, but they're very, again, they go back to that familiarity of it. I like that structuring of this story. Not to mention it's got the Daleks in it, which I like.
But they're not in it that much
They're
either.
not. But he's got the group of these ragtag ones.
The decrepit.
He's essentially kind
the
of
voice acting they did on those with the effects made them
Yeah.
so much sound.
The stutter that they had, and
they were almost scarier in my opinion.
They almost were, and just because
you didn't know what they were going to do.
Daleks are a bit unpredictable and unhinged anyway, just as the simple beings that they are. But then to have these kind of not quite right Daleks, just expecting them to be even more unhinged and less controllable, that was what made those scary, I think.
Yeah. One part I wasn't too on was I always expect Davros to have a grand master plan, and when he starts flipping on a dime, trying to just survive, I was okay with it because he was just trying to escape and But the fact that he was willing to, okay, I'm going to do this. Nope, that's not going to work. I'm going to do this. Nope. It felt very Master more than Davros.
Well, I think that's
the fact that he was willing to switch sides so quickly and so easily instead of playing through whatever his master plan was.
I think that's because we've come to Davros at this point, and he
is desperate.
We've done Davros in the future. We've done Davros in the past. So and it's at this point that we kind of get the 3R Davros. The Revelation Davros, the
smack dab in the middle.
Davros,
it's right after Resurrection.
And so we've come back to that. So this was kind of the status quo of Davros of this time. So again, I think we're going back to familiarity again, but it was a familiar theme within that era of Davros that we got. And so it wasn't surprising to me that he was in this way that he was. The surprising thing, I think, to me ultimately was when Mel turns the mechanoids against him. And you think that they have utterly destroyed him because you hear him, screaming, no, in the background, and you're thinking, oh, okay, there's Davros again getting killed by his creation. But then later to come back and be so injured, but the chair's keeping him on life support. And then to take it a step further, and his self-defense mechanism has been triggered. And he's about to blow up. And they have that moment of he's like basically telling the Doctor and Mel, run, get away, save yourselves. And it's almost that point that I'm like, that's a little out of character for Davros. But when you think back, he didn't know Mel. And I think that some small, minor piece of humanity connected with Mel, and he had that compassion for her, not necessarily the Doctor.
No.
And I love how the Sixth Doctor plays this off in the, he has compassion for Davros, but he doesn't have much sympathy for him to give him. In fact, he says, I wish I could... I don't remember exactly how he says it, but he sells it in such a way that, I wish I could have some remorse for what's about to happen, but I can't. Yeah. This is literally what he says. I mean, that's paraphrasing. But to see that, Davros is in a situation and have a bit of compassion, but also have that, well, I can't feel too bad about this kind of thing. I liked that because it was still in line and in character with the Doctor, but it was that connection between him and Mel that I think is the reason why he goes to the lengths of doing what he does. And then when it actually happens, and that's when the moment hits you that, we just saw Davros in the 9th series. Davros is he's immortal. You can't do anything to him. You can't kill the guy. You just can't kill him. Yeah. And I thank goodness they haven't, because they brought him back in very
he blew up at the end of this one, and Mel looked at me and said, he's not good. Not even a little bit.
Because you guys...
Well, he's going to come back as a head in a jar, but not really a head in a jar. He's going to be really old.
Wasn't this set before Resurrection?
That's before Resurrection.
This is before Resurrection?
This is before Resurrection and before Remembrance, but after... No, I'm sorry. This is after Resurrection, but before the other R that we never can remember. No,
Remembrance.
It is before Remembrance.
Well, it is before Remembrance.
It's before Colin's
Revelation.
It's before Revelation. It's after. It's between Revelation and Remembrance.
They made a specific comment about mentioning it.
Because they talked about the Necros Daleks, because that's what his base of his...
Yeah, you're right. It's after...
It's R2.5.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way to say it right there. It is between there. Yes, you're right.
Which I really appreciated those references, so we knew where it was at.
So and even Head in the Jar would have already happened. Davros in a Emperor was what we get.
Yes,
next.
Yeah. However that comes to be.
Yeah, right. But still in the midst of a civil war against the original faction.
It's almost like he tried, after his success with the mechanoids, he went back down that path again with the Daleks now. It's a really nice continuity bit for his character. I'd be really interested, once we kind of get all of these Davros stories under our belts, to sit down and watch them all in Davros's timeline. Yeah. It would be fascinating to see how that progresses.
When I think
granted, through 5, 6, and 7, most of that is in chronological order, but putting the big finish in there too would be great.
By doing that too, that might help you not feel like this is so out of character for Davros, because I really think his character...
He's so desperate by this point that
his character grows in different ways throughout his linear timeline. He has different motives and different machinations as we go along. So yeah.
So this would also be set post, or Would this be set before his Davros story? Just Davros with the Sixth Doctor?
No, because the Doctor says, I worked with you once before.
Yeah.
Okay,
I worked side by side with you before, and you...
So
this has afforded
So
us...
Davros was set probably before Resurrection.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because Davros was the one where he was working on the financial formula to play the stock market anyway, and you kind of got the sensation that this is where he was. Which again, I never really thought about it. I always took it as why did his MO change? Why is he now so worried about money? And I guess I didn't think about it as when you're the head scientist of the elite military, and it's like pretty much you can divert funding from anywhere you need to on the planet, so you can work on your mobile tanks.
Resource,
and you don't have that anymore. It's like that actually made a lot of sense. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Well, that's part of the desperation.
There was a logic to these stories that I never got.
Well, that's part of the desperation.
I think that's watching them in order.
The M80s.
The idea that the funding source is there automatically, and then when that's cut off, you've got to come up with ingenious, clever ways of doing it. So you do have those moments of desperation. You have to first get the funding, then carry out the maniacal plan.
Yeah.
And so the funding always becomes the base because money is power. And so you've got to get that set in stone. And he's had to do that in Davros. He's had to do that in the Juggernauts. So it's that idea. And it's not until later when he actually gets back. I mean, even in Journey's End and the
Stolen
Earth and Journey's End, he's back in the clutches of the Daleks, and while we're set to believe that he's leading the Daleks once again, he's not. He's really a prisoner, a captive of them. He just has desperately come up with a plan that he thinks will seat him at the head again.
Yeah.
And then it's not until we get back to Davros again on Skaro at the beginning of Series 9 that we realize, he now is sort of quasi in charge now, but it's not because of moving back in and getting into power. It's more of the fact that he's come home to die, but he hasn't. But he hasn't because it's a trap. But I love that. I like it's almost like when you look over the for anything that we've reviewed, because I'm sure there are holes out there, but for anything that we reviewed, Davros has really kind of grown in the right direction and never deviated from the Davros that is constantly happening through his timeline. It's interesting that you can have very few. I mean, despite the fact that the guy keeps seemingly dying and then coming right back. Besides that, there's really no plot holes. They've really done a good job of making sure this is this era Davros. This is this era Davros. This is it. And it all,
and
literally
the Big Finish
works.
fits those gaps to build them to that era. Yeah. I guess part of me just always assumes Davros has a grand master plan, and so when he doesn't, it surprises me.
But most of the time, he doesn't have a grand master plan.
I don't know why I think he does. I don't know why.
I mean, there are times that he has. Don't get me wrong, but
and maybe it's because I like those stories better.
Maybe.
I just think of those instead.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Maybe sometimes Davros would be better to fly by the seat of his pants.
Almost kind of like when he does fly by the seat of his chair.
Sure.
I almost kind of like when he does because it shows you that while it ends up being a weakness in the long run, Davros also does. He's always thinking on his feet. Oh no, sorry, that was bad. But he's thinking on his proverbial feet.
He's thinking on his wheels.
He's preferably, yeah. Anyway, he's always having to change the plan as he goes, and I kind of like when he does that because he's always thinking very fast. He's always okay. Well, what gets me to the next step? What gets me to the next step? So I kind of like that.
Well, it makes because I mean when you sit around twiddling your fingers and going all is going according to plan, and then the doctor shows up and screws it up, you have to think to yourself, you know what? Maybe
I shouldn't keep playing.
Maybe we should just go with it. I'm going to put him in an easily escapable situation and wait. What could possibly go wrong?
I am I think it does get a little tedious that the Doctor gets thrown into having to help somebody, and then later find out that it was all part of a different plan and they had no intention to cooperate. It's almost like, am I stupid? I know that this isn't going to go. This isn't going to turn out right, but it's so obvious. But then sometimes I just kind of let that wash over and go, okay.
Well, that's one of the things that goes back to what you had said about this being a perfect Colin vehicle. Is when he wakes up in the room, and of course I heard the heartbeat. I'm like, oh, it's a Dalek ship. Not that I didn't know they were in this, but I still get those moments even when I do my research ahead of time, and it's like, they're there. But and they turn the lights on, and he's like, oh, I should have known. And he's just bored. Yeah. He just acts bored with the whole exercise, and they're threatening him, and they're doing this, and you're going to, oh, yeah, of course, yeah. It's just, only Colin's Doctor could pull off that level of indifference with the Daleks.
And that great line of, shut up. How can I shut up if that whole interchange that they have between the two of them is only Colin's Doctor can pull that off.
All the way down to him making the deal, and Mel and I will be free to leave. Yes. Then he says, "Okay, I'll do it." And then he says to himself, "Although I don't really believe you," which is like, yep, that's how I feel.
And that's more what you were going on with. It's the status quo.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe, and again, I'm totally retconning this now, but as we've done more of these Big Finish stories set in the later 80s eras with the 6th, 7th, and even the 8th Doctor stories, and we've kind of touched on this before, where the more Dalek stories you do, the less scary they seem to get, because they just lose something when they're so easily defeated.
As Moffat said.
But it kind of makes a fresh change, I think, for some of the later New Who Doctors, that now we're coming at this after the Time War, that they nearly destroyed the entire universe, and thanks to the intervention of the Doctor, we're defeated, but at a cost. That they're gone, the Time Lords are gone, that all stuff's gone. So then when they do show back up, it's kind of like, there's an added element of weight to this. I know we kind of waver a little bit back and forth on, am I tired of Dalek stories already? But at least now I still kind of feel, we know Glenn's not. But I still feel like, even with the frequent defeats in New Who, when the Daleks show up, I still feel that there's a little bit more of an element of danger in a New Who Dalek story than maybe in a classic Doctor Who story. Now, part of that might be because intellectually I know the Doctor's going to get out of this because he's got several more regenerations to go later. But I think part of it is just that even the Doctor has kind of hit that, oh, it's you.
Yeah.
And all of those regenerations are kind of like, all right, well, look, I'm going through the motions. Blah, 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 then we defeated you. Okay, let's move on. Versus the new series stuff where it's like, oh, it's you.
Yeah, and the weight of the
there's
war,
a genuine threat there, it seems like now, versus maybe, in the latter half of the series, maybe there wasn't as much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and even Third Doctor era, those Dalek stories, the threat is not that great.
It took Genesis to really
elevate the
threat back.
Yeah.
Well, in the introduction of Davros.
Yeah.
Didn't last long.
And now that you talked about the scene where the interchange between the Doctor and the Daleks, I can see the Third Doctor in that same situation though.
Oh yeah,
same way. Same, being so flippant about it. Yeah, of course. not with as much panache as Colin does it with, but having that same. Yeah, sure. Oh, how am I going to be able to do this? It's yeah. I can totally see the Third Doctor because it was much like that. Oh, they've shown up again. Type.
Yeah.
I almost think the Third Doctor would have, his concern for his companion maybe would have overridden his snark level.
Yes.
Versus Colin, which is, this is always going to come first. I'm sorry, Mel. I'm sorry, Perry. I'm sorry, Evelyn. The snark is coming first. Then I will be concerned about you, but I have to get my one-liner off.
Yeah, the Third Doctor wouldn't have been as snarky with it, but it would have been that exchange.
I like to think that he hides his concern behind the one-liner.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Sure. Well, why not? I like that.
The Sixth Doctor has a book. Just a note. In one of the many pockets, there's a book, and he thinks of things that he can say to bad guys. And he constructs very elaborate, well-constructed sentences that have a lot of really in-depth vocabulary. And he just holds on to them when he thinks of them.
I like it.
And he throws them out later.
I'll take it one step further. If you got what are we now, a 1,200-year diary? If you got the diary and you looked at the Sixth Doctor entries, that's all it would be. It wouldn't be anything other than, what can I say to them this time? You know?
Whereas the other doctors are probably writing things like, had a good day with so-and-so and did this and went to blah, blah, blah. The Sixth Doctor's entries, met the Daleks again, defeated Daleks again.
That Doctor is... Still haven't gotten to the Eye of Orion yet. Promised Tegan to take her to the Eye of Orion. Hadn't got there yet.
She keeps wanting to go home.
Told Turlo the other day we were going to go see the Eye of Orion. Hadn't got there yet. Went to the Eye of Orion. Got sucked back to Gallifrey.
Today's entry. Made it to the Eye of Orion! Exclamation point. Left in a hurry. That's the next show. The Doctor's Diary. Why am I still traveling with Tegan? Question mark. Maybe it's time to break out the instruction manual and look up how to get her home.
Day 8 of pretending to be sad that Adric's dead. Do you have anything else to say?
Lisa's locked herself in her room. Again, the one thing I'm actually kind of concerned about.
Anything else about the Juggernauts?
Note to any megalomaniacal people out there who are going to create a race of helper robots for investment purposes so that you can carry out your true nefarious plan. Juggernauts. Bad title. Come up with a new name for these things. Because at no point in time did any of the guys from the...
That's like, I've got these robots, and they're going to help you with various tasks that'll make life simpler. We've called them badass killing machines. Not a sales tactic. Right?
Yeah, that's what exactly. And not in so many words, but and Davros is maybe somebody in your marketing department can come up with, promise you immortality, and it's like in a juggernaut. Sure, it was a fun story. That's about all I can say. This is the other thing. Not only could this only be Colin's Doctor, this particular story really only works with Mel.
Yeah,
as her character because she's a computer programmer.
That and she has not experienced the Daleks.
Yeah, so at this point,
she knows nothing of Davros. She knows nothing of the Daleks. She knows nothing of the Mechanoids. She has absolutely a clean slate. And yes, he is a computer programmer. I think that's why you said earlier on that this is a really good story for Mel, and not just from the aspect of her character development in this, but the fact that they utilize something that she specializes in.
Yeah. It's like whenever Perry gets to do botany stuff. It's nice.
Perry gets to look at plants. Mel, go program something. I mean,
you got to appreciate that we're going to give them the backstory. Might as well use the backstory.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
like that.
Well, and Ace, break out the baseball bat. I mean, that's
where's your Nitro 9?
Play to their strengths.
But Ace, we go home and we burn down a house or something. No, that was the. Well done on that front, and kind of like for the limited time that Mel is on screen, I didn't like Mel. I don't know why. It was just she was off-putting as a companion or something. But man, I have loved every single one of the audios that we have done with her. Not that we've done many,
her in them. Yeah,
we've said it before, but I think Big Finish knew what they were doing. I think they knew they had to go back and play to the strengths of these actors, especially if they were bringing back familiarity. They had to really. They got a chance to go back and do what they couldn't do on the series, and that's grow these characters and make them interesting. And I think they've done a fantastic job with every single one of them they've brought back.
Absolutely.
Well, we have yet to listen to the Adric one. But
What do you got coming up on the schedule, Sean?
well, coming up on the schedule, this week's Friday Night Who, we will conclude The Chase, the William Hartnell story. We're going to do parts 4 through 6. Thank you. Big shout out to everybody who joined us this week and put up with my shenanigans since Keith was not here to run the countdown, and I had problems galore. Just,
I take a week off.
yeah, that's what happens when you leave Sean in charge. But Keith will be back next week.
Yes, I will.
And ready for parts 4 through 6. And then because we had so much fun with the Juggernauts, we decided to expand as a slight schedule revision for next week's show. We're going to go ahead and do a full-blown adversary archive on the Mechanoids. So not only are we going to review The Chase and say goodbye to Ian and Barbara, spoilers, but we're also going to cover some early Who comics, the stories The World That Waits, which is in the collected comic, the Dalek World Annual. Yep. And then we're going to do The Eye of War and Impasse, which are two different comic stories, which are both collected in the Dalek Chronicles. And then in the... what is this called?
Doctor Who Files.
Doctor Who 11. Files, number 11, The Cult of Skaro. There is a short story by Justin Richards, who's one of our favorites, called Birth of a Legend. And all of those stories feature the Mechanoids in some way, shape, or form. So we're just going to go ahead and throw it all in there when we talk about The Chase. And it's been a while, and why not? The Mechanoids seem like fairly worthy adversaries for an archive.
We'll see.
We'll find out. And the rest of the schedule is posted. No other changes. The following week is Delta and the Bannerman with Sylvester McCoy. And then we're doing Beyond the Doctor for our Sylvester McCoy feature, because he is in 1979. Did I have the date right?
Yes.
Dracula with Frank Langella. So.
And Donald Pleasant.
And Donald Pleasance is in it. Well, it wouldn't be a 70s movie without Donald Pleasance.
Right.
I'm pretty sure he's in Star Wars somewhere. He's in a TIE fighter pilot outfit or something.
Be sure to support us on Patreon if you're not already. Please do so. And if you are, thank you very much for your contributions. It certainly helps this show. And also be sure to click on those links on our website. Thank you to Ben, who has purchased something through Amazon. Yeah, a couple of something through Amazon. Every little bit of those help, because proceeds from those links actually going back into this podcast as well. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Terrific. If that's going to do it for this week, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing ya.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.